Hey everyone, it's me, Sean Capri. Welcome to Carpool Gaming, where today I'm stoked to do a review in progress, some impressions for Assassin's Creed Shadows. What's up, gamers? It's me, Sean Capri, here for your review in progress of Assassin's Creed Shadows. And I am joined by none other than my good friend, Seth Sturgill, the $2 hero. What's up, Seth?
Hi, Sean. Very excited to be talking about some Assassin's Creed Shadows with you today, my friend.
Seth, I need to be 100% clear here. This game is massive, and they hit a point last week. I was playing the game thanks to Ubisoft Canada, and I reached out to him like, this game is huge. I think I might need a little bit of help with the review. I need somebody to talk to. I need somebody to sort of bounce ideas off of as well. We reached out to our community in the Discord, the Carpool Gaming Discord, and we asked people to jump on and be part of the review process. So we've got a ton of questions. So I think the way I'd like to tackle this, if it's okay with you, as if we haven't already discussed, maybe you might play the part of the audience, and I can tell you all about Assassin's Creed Shadows and my experience with it.
That's right. I'll play the outside observer, if you will, the one outside the animus, Sean, bringing in the questions from the outside in the community. I mean, I guess like before, because we're trying to do something a little bit different here. This is a massive game. So I guess before we even get into the questions, like some high level thoughts, like of where you have put a bunch of time into this game. You've been mainlining it. You've been no-lifing it, as the kids would say.
No-lifing, yes. Is that what they say? I'm so out of it. I guess so.
Yeah,
I guess that's what I've been doing. Yeah, I managed to, tell my family, look, this is a big game. I want to put as much time into it as possible. It's a big responsibility, man. These Ubisoft games are huge. It's great to get a chance to play early. And as we speak, there's no other reviews. There's no other content out there. There's some maybe previews, I guess. So I don't know what anybody else is thinking. Right. So I'm thinking at this moment, and now that I say this has to be the thumbnail. I think the thumbnail is going to say, it's great? Question mark?
Question mark?
Because, so I just want to come out and say, I'm really enjoying my time with it. I'm about 35 hours into the game. And there are so many people to kill. There's still so many people to kill. I've assassinated countless people, and there's still more to be assassinated. They're still awaiting my blade in all of their fleshy parts, Seth. But I'm not done yet. I've not rolled credits yet, and certainly far from, 100%ing completing this game. But I did want to, I don't want to bury the lead here in that I'm really liking it. I'm a big fan of this latest sort of version or iteration of Assassin's Creed. And we'll get into that maybe in a little bit. But I had high hopes that this would fix me, Seth. And
this will do it.
I think maybe in a way it has. It might be the brightest light in my life over the last little while. That doesn't mean it's perfect. So I walk that line, that we're going to get into this. This is why I wanted to get into detail, why I wanted to chat with you, why I wanted to bring in comments and questions from the community, because there is a ton to cover here. So high level thoughts, I'm super, super positive on it. It's not the greatest game ever made. It's not the worst game ever made, but I could say that we're anything. So
sure.
Wanted to mention this right off the top as well. For whatever reason, reviewing a Ubisoft game these days, it comes with something, man. I don't know what is going on with people's sort of, affliction with Ubisoft games these days. So I feel the need to have this giant disclaimer around it. I'm really liking it. I've liked the last couple of Assassin's Creed games. There's some tweaks and some stuff, but overall, super positive, loving my time playing as Naoe and Yasuke. And those are the only names that I will try to enunciate and pronounce
probably
during
for the best.
Today's review. Yeah.
That's fair. Well, this game too, I mean, not only is there the sort of the Ubisoft thing, which you've mentioned, I completely agree. You and I have had a bunch of conversations about this, but also there's a lot of expectation, I feel like, around this game, because people have literally been, since Assassin's Creed was a thing, I feel like the narrative around Assassin's Creed was, when are they going to do one of these in Japan with ninjas?
I don't think I have that same, I don't think I was one of the people who's been oh, they've got to put one in Japan. But I'm glad they did, and it comes with a lot of culture and place and character that they really take advantage of.
Well, yeah, so let's get into things here. So you are playing, as you said, thank you to Ubisoft Canada for allowing us to review the game here. You're playing on PC. Do you want
Yeah.
to get into any of the nerdy details of the
Oh,
PC?
yes, for a quick moment. I won't
Yeah.
spend too much time on the PC facts. I mean, I'm no Digital Foundry, none of us are. But I'm playing on a fairly decent computer. I've got that new 9800 X3D
Oh,
CPU, but I've
man.
got an older GPU. I've got the RTX 3080. So it's not the latest and greatest, but the game runs fine on this computer.
Mhm.
It's running full 60 frames per second. There's a whole bunch of great options. It seems to require ray tracing, which is very strange. You can't like turn that off to optimize performance, but you can turn it like way down. And that's a strange thing. That's a whole other PC conversation that's happening. I think it was the same with Indiana Jones on PC. Now I will say, because I have it on PC, I was able to play it on my ROG Ally as well, which is bonkers. Like that's just the future.
Crazy.
I'm just sitting in bed, with my handheld, fans going a million miles an hour, just like trying to keep this thing cool. Yeah. But it works. The game works. I was playing at 900p and somewhere between 30 and 50 frames a second.
Okay.
Yeah. So like, playing on PC is new for me. I've never played an Assassin's Creed on PC. I've always played it on Xbox.
Mhm.
And I'm loving it because I've got this nice ultra wide, this 5120 by 1440p monitor. It looks gorgeous and runs really great, but I'm not popping any achievements, Seth. I'm not getting any, and I miss it. I miss that.
Yeah.
So, but I just wanted to say, game runs pretty good. The PC games have been hit or miss launch wise, and like, are they buggy? Are they running fine? And I've had a few very, very minor and mostly funny, like physics-based bugs that I can't tell if it's a bug or a feature sometimes. Remember the movie 300, like the big, like kick the guy down, like this is Sparta kick?
This is Sparta kick, yeah.
That was in Odyssey. I didn't play Valhalla long enough to know, but it's back in this game. You can give a guy a big, flat foot kick to the chest and they go flying. And I don't know if that's a physics bug or if that's just how it's supposed to be. If the guy's supposed to fly away 400 feet, but it's great. Yeah, they go flying away and they scream and it's a good time, man. So, but otherwise, like no terrifying eyeballs and mouth, just teeth, kind of nothing crazy like that. I don't know if anybody remembers that bug in
Unity or whatever it was.
Yeah, I think it was. So yeah, happy to report no great game breaking bugs like that. Game runs very, very well on both my decent PC and also my ROG Ally. So that's kind of clearing the cobwebs here, just
polished.
as we get settled in. It does seem polished. Yeah, the game was delayed at least once, if I recall.
I think twice.
Yeah. And it's the Miyamoto quote, and here we are. The game is launched, and I'm sure there's going to be a day one patch between the time we're recording this and when it releases. So even more improvements, I'm sure, to come. But man, tons and tons of content to get through here. That's how I'm playing it. I appreciate the opportunity to do it. But why don't we dive on in and let's get some people from the community in here as well.
We got a question here from the Garrett Bland. Bland Explosion. Compared to recent Assassin's Creed games, how bloated does Assassin's Creed Shadows feel? Will it take forever to go through most of the content?
Bloated is such a heavy word, man.
It
As
is.
I take a sip from my coffee, which doesn't have any dairy products in it, just for that reason. I mean, maybe I might reframe a little bit if that's okay, Garrett, because I don't know that I would use the word. I don't know if I would use the word bloated, but it is huge. Like, I think I know what he's getting at here. There is a ton to do, a metric ton to do in this game, as was Valhalla, as was Odyssey and Origins. Very similar. So I think, like, especially if you played those games and then also recently with Mirage, it's in the style of Origins, Valhalla, Odyssey, just massive. And with the two different characters, and we'll get into details about them, they have like their own paths, which is great. Like, they have their own backgrounds, which you can explore through different missions and side missions and activities and stuff. And the way they engage with the world, you can embark with each of them probably for, I don't know, like 50 hours each, honestly. You'll want to pick and choose them for various tasks and various whatever your strengths are and how you want to play the game. But yeah, the game is huge. And it was funny. I was watching watching a podcast. PSVG was talking about this game, and a question came in to them asking how they were going to play the game, whether they're going to go all with Naoe or with Yasuke. And at the time, I was like, wait, you can switch characters? And I had been playing the game for probably 15 hours at that point, and I hadn't had the option. And the reason that's important for this question is you do unlock Yasuke at a certain point, but I could have been going on not progressing like the story and just going to explore and stuff. I probably could have done it for 25, 30 hours. I mean, that gives you a sense of how big this game is. Mm-hmm. You can climb mountains and go find your towers and just go buy stuff and explore and kill enemies and do like the forts, the classic Far Cry and Ubisoft thing. You're going to go into all these castles and kill everybody off there and loot everything. You could do that forever. Or you could tackle like the main circle of people that you're supposed to kill and mainline in that way. I will say, maybe to wrap a bow up on this question, mainlining this game is not the way it's meant to play.
Right.
The fun of the game is the gameplay loop and going around and killing people and upgrading your gear and learning the backstories and stuff. Like as soon as I started mainlining it, I think my enjoyment of it went kind of down, because I would still find like those question marks on the side of the map and a quest over here or an activity to do over here. And I'm like, oh, there's some juice, Seth, over here. There's some good stuff over here. So if my attention went too much on the main circle of enemies to kill, I was going to miss out on some major, really great backstory with Naoe in particular. Really liking that character. So, I mean, yeah, it's a massive game, but I don't know if that's really a surprise to anybody at this point. So happy to report, I guess. And maybe I just play this for the next 3.5 months.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? I mean, you could look at it one way and say, oh, this is bloated. You could also look at it and say, this is a ton of great stuff that I can just do for a long time.
I really could. Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that in my book. Now, we had a few questions from the community too, and I think this is kind of a looming thing over people's head, because Assassin's Creed, this is a franchise that's been going on for close to 20 years now.
Yeah.
I mean, the first one was 2007, I think.
Where's my cane? Has it really been? Yeah, I guess so. 2007? Yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I mean, this is a long running franchise at this point, and in the interim, other games have come out. Obviously, there's a ton of other Assassin's Creed games. Ghost of Tsushima, I think, is another big point of comparison. And so to get into things here, We the Nerdy Andrew came in and said, how does it compare to Ghost of Tsushima? Does it feel like a true samurai/ninja game?
Well, I think this is important. I wanted to include this question because I already know the answer. Like I did not play that game. And so, but I think that's important for us to sort of lay out onto the table for everybody here as well. I don't have that point of comparison. Right. So and I barely know anything about Ghost of Tsushima, to be honest with you, other than the wind like takes you places, like it points you in the right direction. Here, I think that's a thing. Yeah. So I don't know. And honestly, I'm glad to bring it up as well. As a reviewer, I guess, I think it's kind of strange in some cases to do that comparison. Like, this game is better than this other game. Like, right. I really just kind of want to talk about this game on its own merit and the experience that I had. So I guess that's maybe me talking out of both sides of my mouth, but I didn't play Ghost of Tsushima. I'm trying to think if there's any other game sort of in that ilk. Seems like we're getting a lot of Japan stuff these days, but that's the one that is top of mind. I will say, like, this game is an Assassin's Creed game. I don't know how much Assassin's Creed was in Ghost of Tsushima, or Tsushima. But like, it feels very similar to Valhalla, feels very similar to Odyssey. So it doesn't really, aside from it being placed in Japan and you playing as a ninja and samurai in the game, I don't know if there's anything else to really compare. The grounding piece that is Japan, though, does, like, its culture, its the characters, the place and the setting. Obviously, there's going to be some easy comparisons to be made, but I just love the way that it just bleeds through the production of it. Like I think I was able to share a little bit with you prior to recording this. The one thing that I think people will take away right from the start is the production of it. Like, this is like a full on, this is like a 60-hour movie in some cases. Really lengthy intro. I think people should sort of just get settled in, and this game is not to be raced through, and it sets that tone very quickly. Like, the first probably 5 to 10 hours, it wasn't entirely a movie, but it was a lot of background setting, and this is who this character is, and it's not racing you into the action all that much. In fact, it kind of gives you like 2 tutorials in a way. There's a point where I'm like, I feel like I've learned this already. So that was it felt a little stunted just to get going there, but it's one of those, trust me, bro, just play the first 7 hours and then it gets good. But it does, like, it really, you eventually do get into that typical Assassin's Creed flow, but not before really stopping and letting you steep in this setting and this world and these characters, so that when moments happen, like when a person, maybe a person dies in this game, it's called Assassin's Creed.
Hang on now.
Spoilers.
Yeah.
Those moments hit, man. And then the recovery and the grief process and the like coming back and the montages. There's so many montages in this game. It's maybe a little stereotypical, but it still manages to hit. It's still like, look at him improving. Oh man, he's really dedicating himself, and he's really down. I didn't think he was going to make it, but totally he trained up, and his sensei just helped him out. And those still hit, man. Like, the game it's very on the surface level. It's obvious what it's doing. And I'm like, oh yeah, here's a montage. He's not very good, and he's going to be better at the end of it. And still, I'm like, it still gets me. Like, there's
nothing wrong with that.
There's still some emotional moments. I'm like, good for him. And maybe that speaks more about just where I'm at in life, but
sure.
Maybe I need a montage. Maybe I need a little.
We could all use a montage from time to time.
Everybody needs a montage.
Yeah, well, that's a good like point too, because even just watching you play, I was taken with how cinematic the whole thing is.
Yes.
How just like, it very much feels, one thing that I think Ghost of Tsushima did really well, not to compare the two, but it did go for that kind of, this is like an Akira Kurosawa film or whatever. And this is very much also like not going for that exact same thing, but it definitely feels like you said, high production quality, like very cinematic, very much feels like a playable like movie in a lot of ways. So in that way, people probably will get that out of this.
Even the assassinations, like that's always been like obviously a hallmark. There's these targets that you have, and when you get your guy, like it kind of goes like black and white and like kind of slows down. Like it looks really cool. You're gonna go take a lot of lives, and the questions it raises around that through the lens of Japanese honor and like just a sense of duty and a sense of purpose. Like there are deep themes that are explored through this, and it is done through this wonderful production. And this is AAA gaming. I will say maybe this is a good point for me to bring up how I'm playing. There's a really interesting option called Immersion Mode, which puts everything into Japanese. And so I'm playing the game, for the most part, I'm playing in full Japanese voiceover, full Japanese performance capture. And for me, I would say this is the way to play it, because immersive mode, immersion is the word. I am like all in. And it's really interesting. I'd love to find this out, Seth, because I did when you and I were I was sharing some capture with you as well. It. I'm like, let's just go over and see what the English version of this looks like. And I need to find out. I feel like this is terrible. I feel like the writing got worse when it was in English. Like, I don't know if it's the same. I don't know, but like,
I'm sure it is.
It probably, but so I guess the point is it doesn't come across quite as well. Right. And that, for me, I felt like the Japanese sort of version of it landed better and played a massive role in why I'm so animated and positive on it, because I'm leaning in, man. I'm getting in close to the screen. I'm loving all the emotion and how the way these words are articulated and how they're enunciated, and how it seems like they just come from the chest. Whereas like the English version felt more Hollywood, I guess. It felt more acting, and it didn't seem quite as genuine for me. So
you don't speak of justice, you embody it. You seek to free people, not mold them to your vision of the world. I know your vision because we share it.
No, we told.
But I also know that's not for everyone. Not everybody wants to read subtitles, but for me, that really hit. So I'd be curious to see what other content creators and reviewers are doing on that front. For me, the Japanese version was just like dude, it just hit, man.
I agree.
So great.
Even just watching it. I mean, it like that stuff hits different. And to your point, I don't know if you said this or not, but you were telling me at the beginning of the game, it like sets that up for you. It's not like you have to like choose to go in there separately. It's like, hey, do you want to experience this game this way?
100%.
So,
yeah. Between that and another sort of mode or option that is in Odyssey and certainly Valhalla as well. I can't remember if it was in Origins or not. It might have been. Sort of like a guided mode versus exploration mode. And what ended up happening back in the day, in the early, Assassin's Creed days, I think people felt like all they were doing was just setting a target on a map or setting an objective and just following waypoints. And that felt like I was definitely on that train where it just felt like I was following a map or like a guided GPS kind of thing for 50 hours at a time. And so they introduced this option, this exploration mode that kind of gives you more descriptions on where this target or where this activity or quest is going to be. And you can kind of get clues as to where this is. So it'll tell you, this person's in this province. And then in the next bullet point, you'll discover it's in this town. And then specifically, it'll tell you like what building or whatever it is. And at that point in this game, you can send out some scouts. You've got these scouts that you're building almost like you've got like a hideaway. You've actually got some base building, which we'll get into in a second here. But you basically recruit some allies and some friends to help your cause as you're trying to, advance your mission. And so you can deploy some of these scouts on the map. And it's just a circle that kind of reveals if there's something to be found there instead of you having to go there yourself. And so that's one of the ways that you can go discover this guy is right here. But that is different in the guided mode, which is your typical, this quest is going to be done in this very specific location. In exploration mode, it's a little bit more realistic, quote unquote realistic. And you just kind of have to go find and discover exactly where these people are. So that's a difference. And I played probably the first 25 or 30 hours with exploration mode. Like I actually quite like it. But I will say that's probably one of the reasons I'm not further along in the game. Like it takes longer, like it's not going to have all of the points on your map for you to go from one to the next. Like I was wandering quite a lot. And you know what, Seth? Like I don't regret it, man.
No, don't.
I like playing it that way. I don't know why I got aggressive there.
I love stuff like that. I'm the guy I like to walk around. I like to smell the roses, man. That's like I like when a game gives you really good roses to smell like that.
There's a quest where you actually have to go find some flowers for some dude.
There you go.
Yeah, enjoy that. Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that.
Pretty important stuff when you're trying to, save the country, save the future of your country.
Find my flowers.
Honor your family. Yeah, go.
That's how these things always are, right? Well, we did have a couple of questions here regarding this game kind of and the structure of it. The Quaggy comes in and says, I've only played 1, 2, and 4. How does Shadows compare with these older Assassin's Creed games? Has Shadows gone back to its roots any? Is Shadows the continuation of the RPG line of games that started with Origins? Is it a blend of both? Something new? Yeah, I think we're kind of, this is also by the Odyssey team, I think, literally. So
100%. Yeah. And I don't know if this was revealed in the sort of like the previews or anything like that. One of the things that kind of surprised me anyways, because I would have missed it if they did cover it. When you launch the game, it kind of has like a Call of Duty launcher kind of thing where you can launch Valhalla and or Odyssey or Mirage.
That's interesting.
Even so it puts it all on like this cool timeline. So it'll say like at this point in time, it's Valhalla. And then a couple of years later, it's this game. So that's really interesting, but doesn't necessarily answer the question. This does not play, I would say that the first couple of games are pretty straightforward.
Right.
This is super explorative. It's massive, lots of different ways to approach it, lots of different weapons between the two characters. You can't really, I think the only common weapon between the two is the katana. Just waving a bunch of swords around. But other than that, like very different approaches for both those characters on how you're gonna kill everybody. So that's really interesting as well. But certainly the story references some of those early games as well. And that's only just in the last couple of moments that I've been playing the game. It's like, oh, okay, like we're gonna talk about. I don't want to ruin it. But,
yeah.
It does, and that's one of the things Assassin's Creed has been really good at is finding those moments to like put those threads in there and kind of go, oh yeah, like this ties to something else. And so that's really interesting for those super Assassin's Creed nerds. But for if you haven't played an Assassin's Creed game yet, you could jump into this one. I don't know that you're really going to be missing too much by just jumping into Shadows here.
Yeah, I think that kind of answers Black Wyver's question. How accessible is this game for those that haven't played Assassin's Creed games before? It sounds like you're totally fine to just...
I think so. I mean, like you're always one of those, it's a tough question to answer always, which is, anytime you jump into something with a little bit of history there, you're always going to get more out of it if you've played that before. I think IGN did a really great The Story Up Until Now video, which is like half an hour long, which just goes to show all the lore that's been going on in Assassin's Creed. I will say, like, there's almost like two camps on this, which is some people don't care and they just want to play. And some people really, really care about the story. So it kind of depends on like where you're at with it. I'm not in a complete apathy on it, but I wasn't playing every single game every single year. I wasn't like I wasn't really caring like what the Templars were going to be doing, but I find it interesting when it comes up. And it comes up in a big bad way in Odyssey, if I remember correctly. Like comes up like in a really surprising way. Very curious to see where it shows up here. I'm starting to see where that is 35 hours in. I'm starting to pull out a thread. But again, like I've played up until this point, not seeing a whole lot about Templars and that kind of stuff. So it's been, I think it's fine. I think you're totally fine if this is your first Assassin's Creed game. In fact, it's a really good place to start if you're not going to be too overwhelmed by all the content and stuff to get through.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's fair. Well, I think too, a big thing that I think is a question for a lot of people and certainly our community is the big, I think, like the crux of this game, kind of the heart of this game, those two main characters.
Oh man, yeah.
The two main characters that you have that you can swap between. A lot of questions about these two. Drellish comes in and says, does switching between, is it Naoe? Is that how you pronounce her name? And Yasuke feel like a meaningful choice or an arbitrary requirement? And how does this affect your connection to the story?
What a great question. That's a perfectly phrased question. Equally as good as all the other questions that we received. None of them stand out, but that was, it's really great to really dig into here because obviously like the first thing people are really going to notice is the two different characters. Naoe a little bit more, I guess, like traditional, like, born and raised in Japan, where obviously Yasuke wasn't, and their backgrounds, like where they come from, inherently interesting. And it's almost like the one and only thing I really want to say about Yasuke and his background is just like, I've never played a game like this. I've never really experienced anything like this before. But he's obviously different from literally everybody else around him. Very different from even like any other character I've played as in Assassin's Creed. I might just jump right into him and go, he's not an assassin. Like he's not fluid. He's not, his parkour abilities are not the same as Naoe's or any other character I've played as. Was it Bayek in Origins? Like even Bayek had like a lot more fluidity to him, even though he was kind of like a bigger guy. Yasuke kind of plays like Shaquille O'Neal, like he's lumbering. Yeah, he's a big guy. And not really part of this, like he's not part of the Assassin's Creed. He becomes a samurai because somebody sees something in him and sort of like adopts him into that world, and he becomes this incredible warrior. But even the way that he jumps off the big towers or jumps into the water, it's not smooth or slick. He is different, but he still gets the job done. He doesn't do the swan dive. He doesn't do like the leap of faith. He sort of just screams. It's almost kind of funny actually, and just kind of like flops into bays of hay, and it destroys them. Like it's not like a smooth entry. Like it totally goes away. The weapons are completely different. Their strengths totally different, and even their abilities. And so for me personally, again, this is I want to just emphasize why this game is why I'm so positive on it is I'm not a great stealth player. Anybody who listens to anything that we've ever done on Carpool like knows this about me. I'm terrible at stealth. Like I'll crawl around a little bit, I'll try to scope around a little bit. I get a little impatient.
Sure.
And just try to see if I can force my way through it. Eventually somebody finds me and I wonder why and how am I doing this wrong, all this stuff. So that's just me. So when I play as Naoe, like I get that little taste. I can be as stealthy, I can be a shinobi and be all cool like that. But if that's not working out so well, I can back out and then try a different approach. And Yasuke and his strength and his weaponry and his ability to take damage, it's a totally different experience.
Completely.
And so I never feel like locked. I never feel stuck in any of these situations. It's like, oh, well, I'll just switch the characters and do this a bit of a different approach. Or even one of the ways that this was really hitting me, Seth, was I knew I had a certain type of quest, a certain type of assassination. Some of them are, there's a big raid we got to do on this castle or this area, and there's going to be a bunch of enemies. That's a Yasuke quest for me. I just need to kind of go on in like a bull and swing my big bat around. Or, you know, maybe it's a little quieter. One person can go in and get the job done. Then that's Naoe. And it feels awesome to have that choice. And it's more than just a skin swap between the two.
Totally.
It's not just, oh, there's a man and a woman kind of thing. Like they're so different. Naoe can grapple. She's got kind of like a Spider-Man thing going where you can stab somebody and then just throw your grappling hook up top and you climb up and get out of trouble. And that's really great. She's got the typical like eagle vision where you can press down on the thumbstick and it shows where all the main items and enemies are. Yasuke doesn't have that.
Yeah, he doesn't have that.
Like just simply doesn't have
the series staple.
Yeah, not with with half of the characters. It's not even there, but he's so good. He doesn't even need it. He's so strong. You just go, okay, well, I guess I'll live without that. Now switching between the two of them, you can do it fairly quickly. Again, I'm playing on PC. I've got a decent rig here. It's a pretty quick process. It's not instant. And it's also, if you are like and if you're in enemy territory, you can't just swap out, and I think that makes sense. You can't just like what would that even look like? Yeah, like you're in combat, like and
tag out.
Poof. Yeah, it's not like nobody's dropping smoke bombs to swap out for one another. Right. So once you've sort of like engaged in combat, you're kind of locked in on the character that you've chosen. But yeah, like different weapons, different abilities, different. Yasuke is so big, and so even trying to play stealthy is hilarious. Like you can lie down in the tall grass, and it's just this big dude, man. Like you're not hiding from anybody.
Literally like an NBA player or something. Like lying in the grass, like in the
Karl
prone
Malone,
position.
just hanging out there.
Yeah. He's massive. Yeah,
he is. Yeah. So I mean, it does feel important. Each of those characters has their own set of quests. They also have like their own set of like almost like side missions. One to discover more of their backstory, which is always impactful with these two. The care and attention that's been crafted into their stories is really, really great. I will say here, I want to touch on this. Them as a pair, I'm not sure that the story logic that like locks them in together as a partnership is all that great. But individually, they're pretty fascinating stories. And so, yeah, lots of different quests to discover a little bit more about their upbringing and their families and things like that. And then also throughout the game, sort of like scattered throughout the world and the map, are these different activities that you can do. And so for like Naoe, there are these meditation mini games, which again, personally, I'm very appreciative of. I'm just going to take a moment to breathe. And at first, these are ways for her to like reflect on her upbringing, and it's really interesting in that way. And then throughout the game, you find more spots to kind of sit and have a meditation, which is almost like a rhythm game. It's going to ask you to like hit the A button at a certain point in time, and it kind of goes around in a ring and allows you to breathe through it. Eventually, you kind of get the whole backstory to Naoe through that. And then throughout the rest of the game, these are moments for her to just say a little bit of a reassuring kind of comment.
縛りから解かれた心持ちじゃ、これまでのことは変えられずとも受け入れよう。
And unlock knowledge points. And this is the key to unlocking your skill tree. This is how you're going to get better abilities to be unlocked with your skill tree. As you get more experience, you get higher knowledge, and through these meditations and things like that. For Yasuke, it's training. You can have like different samurai training. You can be on the back of your horse, and they've got like these target practice. He's going to pull out his bow and shoot some targets off to the side, or different combo patterns with his various weapons. So these are all different side missions, side activities for you to do that I like the fact that they've connected those things to the skill tree, because otherwise they would seem superfluous. They'd be like, all right, I'm just checking off boxes in a Ubisoft game. I like that. I like the fact that if you were to go into like a castle or a fortress or something, you can kill these like main kind of like mini bosses kind of thing. They're kind of throughout the fortress. And when you do, you can go unlock the giant chest that has really good gear in it. So again, it's not just, I'm going to go check off these boxes. It's if you want the best gear, you got to go into these fortresses. You got to kill the main two people. You can go kill everybody if you want to. But that's how you get the good stuff. That's how you get the juice, Seth.
Yeah. We like the juice. Well, yeah, what was striking to me about this too is, they've been trying to do like the 2 character thing for a long time with Assassin's Creed to like varying degrees of success. A lot of times it's like, well, they're like brother and sister, or in like in Valhalla, it was just like, hey, you can play this character as a male or female essentially. And it's cool with this because like they do genuinely feel different, not even 100%. Just the fact that they have different weapons, different skill trees. Like even just in the time that I was hanging out with you while you were playing, like at several moments, not only was it like, is this a Yasuke mission or a Naoe mission, but also moments of like, I couldn't even imagine Yasuke doing that. Like 100%. That's how different they are, you know, or Naoe doing that,
Totally. Now, because of the way it's structured, we're not going to have a moment. I don't want to spoil it, but people should really find out what the dynamic is in Odyssey between the 2 characters you can pick. That was amazing. I love that very much. We're playing you can co-play both of these characters, but really, yeah, you could spend 20, 30 hours just as one character if you want. For me, cool. I really enjoyed the choice that I had back and forth.
Yeah. There's a question here from Black Wyver saying, how does the switching between characters feel like when comparing to other games like Spider-Man 2? And will choosing between characters have a large enough impact on the game narratively, resulting in the gamer to have different experiences on a second playthrough?
Yeah.
That's interesting.
It's tough for me to talk about a second playthrough because like this game is so huge. Like kudos to anybody who's going to jump into this and go, I'm going to play this at least twice. It's just so massive. But to that point, at this stage, it's tough for me to say really. At this stage, I don't think so, but it is possible. There are some moments that are, pretty pivotal where you're going to make a choice on somebody's fate. In some cases, you might let somebody go. You might practice some forgiveness. You might practice some vengeance in some instances. And so I don't know how that's going to end up in the end, but certainly, yeah, like each character has their own background, their own biases, their own attitudes and opinions on what should happen to various people, depending on if they betray their family or their group or whatever. So I'm not sure, but I could see that being the case in the end. I think there was a question about Canon Mode. Maybe this is a good chance to bring in Tim Pollen as well.
Yep. Yeah, from Tim Pollen. Have you tried the new Canon Mode? If so, does it feel more like AC 1 through 4? I've read that it makes the story kind of linear, which for me would be a welcome regression. That's interesting.
Yeah. So Canon Mode, I mean, it basically establishes like a determined set of moments within the story that Ubisoft is deciding. This is the story. It takes sort of like that power and the agency and choice away from the player. And so I'm interested for people who, like for Tim, it sounds like that would be what he wants. I love choice in games.
Yeah.
That's why I love the Mass Effect games. That's why I love the early Dragon Age games as well. Like just seems like, when you can impact a story and the characters in that world like that really, really gets to me. So I'm not playing on Canon Mode, but I am experiencing those moments where, I'd be really, really interested to see what is canon and how my choices are differing from that. But yeah, a lot of it does depend on, am I allowing this person to live? Are we going to be forgiving in this moment? Are we going to demonstrate some sort of, make an example out of somebody?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing that I've kind of picked up just from talking with you about it is like how much the narrative and its themes are impactful and how the game really has something to say, which is not something that I think people, I mean, I like Assassin's Creed and I loved Odyssey and stuff like this, but it sounds like this, even just from what you've said and, the emotional kind of like heart of this game and some of the stuff this game has to tell the player seems really resonant. It seems like they're really taking the narrative seriously in this one.
Yeah, it's a pretty heavy game. And I was thinking about Odyssey. My memory of Odyssey, maybe this is too long ago, but seemed kind of light. It seemed
Right.
like I played as Cassandra in that game, and it seemed like she just had like this nice chip on her shoulder that made her just really fun to play. And there were some of the missions I remember. There's a guy named Testicles in that game.
Yeah.
I have yet to find a moment like that in this game where like that was really quite silly. And so yeah, the tone is it's very feudal Japan, like very serious, very honor bound people, very duty driven, a lot of those kinds of themes. There's not a lot of lightheartedness necessarily. There's some romancing that can happen. You get some of these options, opposite and same sex options for both characters that I have found. There's one guy that you come across. He's a womanizer, and he's just disgusting. And he makes a pass at Naoe. And I'd be very interested to see for who chooses yes, who's hit like there's a little heart option next to it, so you can tell like this is going to progress to a certain way. Like who's going for that guy? I want to know. That. But yeah, the themes explored here, this, I guess this is becoming a bit of a hallmark for me when a game does this, and does so in such a face forward, like public facing kind of way. And I think about themes like vengeance and revenge. And when somebody does you wrong, like how will you respond? Like, will you endeavor for peace? Do you endeavor to peace through more violence and justify it in that way, or do you turn the other cheek? And so this is done both with the main characters that you're playing, the protagonists that you're playing, but also shows up a lot with the characters that pop up in the story, and some of those characters you can actually recruit as allies. This happened just very recently in my playthrough. You can unleash these allies in the middle of a quest that you're on. You can just pop open and go like, yeah, this chick named Yaya, she basically like a big boxer, and she can just show up like an assist and help you with a bunch of enemies. And that's really interesting. But the point about themes that it's exploring, like vengeance, revenge for sure is one of them. Father-daughter relationships and protecting your kids, like for any parents out there, that's really gonna hit. Redemption, secrecy. The idea that I think might really resonate you kind of have to maybe do a little bit of gymnastics here to get here, but the idea of like blind hatred for a group or someone else that, in your school of thought, in your family, in your tribe, whatever, you are almost taught these people are not our people, and we are at war with those people. And that coming up in this story, in this feudal Japan kind of time, is fascinating. You live it. You're making these decisions and you're doing these actions in this world, exploring these themes, which I think is incredible. For Yasuke, who is obviously an outsider in this world, for him to discover like who he is and what that has to do with where he's come from versus like where he finds himself now, and all the different things that occur in this story to him and around him. It's like his story is, again, inherently fascinating. I just love that, and the way he navigates that, and the way he sort of like partners up with Naoe to define the next chapter in his life. Pretty interesting.
Man, that's what perks my ears up, dude. Like, because I could play this game and have fun with it and just as like an Assassin's Creed game, but knowing that there's a little bit of like narrative fat to chew on, and there's like stuff going on in the game, has things to say. I remember like commenting to you like, oh yeah, like I like Naoe's design. She's got like a scar and everything. And Sean was like, yeah, that scar has a story, dude.
Yeah, man.
And I love that.
It's representative of almost like a before and after. It's like, and that's what scars are to a certain extent. But yeah, there's a before Naoe, and then it's like, okay, the one that has the scar is a different way.
Yeah, for sure. Well, I guess let's talk a little bit about the world itself. Andrew came back and said, how is the world of Shadows? Does it feel like a historically accurate place? And then Drellish said, how successfully does Assassin's Creed Shadows establish its own identity in feudal Japan while respecting historical authenticity? And where does it fall short compared to other games with similar settings? You know what the controversy has been about. Does it come close to Ghost of Tsushima? So there's Ghost of Tsushima again.
Yeah, I don't know if Ghost, is that known to be historically like relevant and accurate.
That's the vibe I got. Famously, everybody knows I played that game front to back.
Oh, so. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
you definitely did. We both did. Yeah.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, I'm no historian. I think this is I think Drellish might actually be a historian, and there are certainly some out there. I don't know that I've realized everybody in the community, in the video game community, is like this this professor in Japanese
With feudal
history.
Japan, yeah.
I mean, maybe. I don't know. I guess I have to go out on a limb on this one to give Ubisoft sort of a little bit of credit on this, that they tend to know what they're talking about when it comes to this stuff.
Yeah.
And it does seem genuine, it does seem authentic, but I have to just want to be clear on this. I'm not fact checking any of this stuff.
Sure.
There are people who are showing up that are familiar names that I don't know if this is the right time for them to show up. I don't even know if this is a real person. I just thought this was like a legend or some other character that showed up in another movie that I've seen. So I might not be the best person to answer that, but I'd be very curious to see like what happens as time goes on and people start to dig into this, whether or not this is historically accurate. I guess is another way to say, for me, it doesn't really matter. If it's historically accurate, bonus, great, that's cool. But I'm not going to make or break my opinion on the game, whether or not they got this, like, well, actually, this person didn't show up until 1770s. I don't know. Like, It doesn't really, that's not how I'm getting enjoyment out of the game. But I'd be very curious. I'm sure the historians will show up at any moment. Like, I don't even know if, like, I guess it's questionable if Yasuke as a black samurai was real. But the way he is introduced into the game is fascinating, and the way that he learns to speak Japanese and the way he's brought over from like these Portuguese clerics, really fascinating. And it's like, good for me. If it even has like a strand of real history in there and they're able to, present the story that they do based on those few strands or threads of realism, I'm good with that. And I feel like that's most video games, is there's some suspension of disbelief that happens, because like how much else is not real in this game?
Right. Yeah. The hidden blade, they probably didn't run around with that thing either.
Probably not. And like, yeah, the ability to scale and climb literally anything. Like there's a lot of not realism in here. So that's kind of where I land on that topic. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of the world, though, one thing that was striking to me just watching you play was how dense the like design of the open world is. That was really because, playing Ghost of Tsushima, like stuff like that, it's a very beautiful game. And this is too. But this really gets into the sort of like undeveloped nature of like early Japan like that. Like it's dense with wildlife and, you see little deer running around and stuff like this. I loved that just looking at it.
Definitely. Yeah. Dense is the word. It's dense with gameplay and quests and things to do, but then also just traversing through this world. One thing that I'm very guilty of and would recommend people don't do this is I'm going to pick a point on my map and I'm going to go do that next. And I basically draw a straight line between where I am and where that quest is. And really what you should be doing is finding a road and following the road. Right. Because in between, in all likelihood, you're going to find like a really densely populated, like a forest, basically, and lots of waterfalls and cliffs and things like this that make it really difficult to just traverse by foot. So definitely find the roads. Hop on your horse is another good way to travel around. I will say it's really fun and it looks really smooth. You can just press down on the D-pad and your horse pops up like most games these days. But sometimes when you bump into something like a tree or a rock or sometimes the horse can kind of freak out. And it's like, again, I could probably use without that realism. Like, yeah, I get maybe the horse got a little stuck there, but he doesn't need to like kick me off the dang thing. And he basically does like a standing up on two legs. It's like, can we just get to a point where these horses can just make that adjustment? Didn't we do that in Breath of the Wild? Wasn't that I was going to say
Miyamoto figured it out. Real horses don't run into trees very often.
Yeah, these horses run into trees and they run into stuff. And but I mean, yeah, the world is. It's fully realized. And on my PC, I don't know if it's the same on consoles. I'm sure it's very similar. When you get up onto those towers, when you're standing up on a cliff and you can just look out into the distance, it's just crazy these worlds that we live in and the games that we get to play. You can look out to these expanses, but then also there's these like coffins, there's these tombs, almost like Tomb Raider. You go underground and they're all there, and those are super fun, man. Like the variety, I think, is really what I'm getting at here. I could spend 10 hours just killing dudes, just going after like the assassin kind of circle. I'm going to go after these targets and do that for a good 10 hours. Or I could do a whole bunch of side missions, or I could do a little bit of base building, which again, I'm curious to see what people are going to think about that. You get like this home base. You can build these various buildings and kind of place them around just some space that you have. You can clear some trees and build a dojo or a study and things like that. And they have all these different kind of perks. So I don't know that that's necessary to do, but it definitely will help you. You'll get a couple more scouts over here, or get one. I can't remember what it was called, but I guess like a blacksmith. You can build one of those, and the guy is going to be there to upgrade your weapons and your armor. You can etch specific upgrades to your weapons or your armor. Then, add like different perks, like, better damage against armor, or higher chance of critical hits and stuff like that. So that's kind of like where the RPG stuff shows up, is more in the gear. But man, like you could probably spend an hour just in your home base and upgrading the stuff there, and developing better and better relationships with people who are in and around there. It kind of just gives you that sense that you're not alone. That home base, you're developing almost like a little community that, there are people there helping out your cause as you're trying to, advance your mission. Now that does one thing. I'll wrap the bow on that point. I don't know that I love like the overall mission of the game. I'm not like, there's a discovery, like there's a mystery that we're trying to uncover, and that's fine. But I'm like, I'm not sure that it's really driving like the whole narrative. It's not quite as like, an unstoppable force. There's not like this massive enemy and everybody is doomed. It's not that. It is still a very personal journey. And so I'm struggling to kind of reconcile those two things, that I'm looking for like this big giant conflict because of how big the game is. But ultimately, like this is coming down to some pretty small potatoes, I guess, that maybe when I get to the end of the game, we'll go, here's what's really going on. And it's this whole thing. But it's kind of small conflicts that's now spiraled out of control, and now I've got to kill all these people. So
okay. Yeah. That is actually appealing to me. I like the sort of like characters, the like character driven priority versus plot driven priority is appealing to me personally.
Yeah, that's well said. Yeah.
So I like that. Well, we have one last kind of question here that's gameplay related one, and maybe we could kind of frame this slightly differently. This comes from Drellish. Drellish says, in what ways does Shadows' stealth system feel genuinely innovative rather than merely iterative, and does it successfully recapture what made earlier Assassin's Creed games special? And so I guess the way I would frame this for you, Sean, as somebody who's played a whole bunch of Odyssey and you have some history with the series and stuff, like, does this feel for you pretty much in line with what you expected, gameplay wise, stealth wise?
I think so. And I think the surprise for me again was Yasuke not having any stealth at all, really. Not really any strengths that would lead, like he can still do it. You can still try, but he doesn't have the eagle eye. He's not small. He can't climb and get himself out of trouble. So like playing stealth as Yasuke is a little bit tricky. But I will say, like, for me, again, just not a traditional stealth player. Like I don't play Metal Gear Solid. Like I don't really do those kinds of games. The best thing I can probably say about this is I still feel like a badass when I do go into stealth mode with Naoe. I still feel capable. There's an upgrade that you can get that allows you to take out two guys at once. Maybe there's additional upgrades later that allow you to do even more. One you can do if people are kind of standing side by side, you can do a double assassination, just get them down as you're coming down on them. That feels great. And then you can tack onto that. I'm going to throw like a knife, like a throwing star or throwing knife at whoever is closest. So you can kind of take out three people at once. For me, where I struggle with stealth is the crowd control element of it. There's always too many people. If it's one dude and he's like just looking out into the distance, I can stealth that guy, no problem. It's when I'm in a situation where there's 5 guards and I'm like, I don't know how to pick off the weak guy first and reduce the numbers from there. So I'm constantly looking for things like that. So It feels good. It feels pretty forgiving, honestly. There's not until later in the game where you find some of these fortresses where there's like an alarm, like there's a bell, and this is a classic Far Cry or Assassin's Creed mechanic where somebody's gonna raise the alarm, and then you're gonna have all these people coming in. That does enter into the game, but it's not every fortress, it's not every castle that you're in, and so it feels kind of forgiving in that way. And then the other piece too is if you really are ever in trouble, like you can, Naoe especially, she's so agile. She can get herself up out of trouble. You can get out of sight, and that feels pretty good as well. But maybe I'll, again, wrap the bow on this one in that I'm not exactly sure what people want with stealth. So I find that question kind of hard to answer sometimes. You and I chatted quite a lot about Star Wars Outlaws, and there was a whole get up about stealth in that game. So I feel like it's a sensitive subject that I don't know how to answer for everyone. For me, I'm not typically a stealth person, and I feel like this was good for me to play, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. I mean, the sense that I get is the reinvention doesn't come with like the moment to moment as much as the reinvention is you have like these two characters and the way that they
100%.
play differently is the heart of it. You know, like Naoe cannot charge through a door like the Kool-Aid Man.
He really does jump in like the Kool-Aid Man. Yeah.
But Yasuke does, and so it really, that's where I think the innovation
stab through
is.
a door, by the way, though. So, it's a great cinematic moment. She'll be kind of like crouching down and being small and stealthy and stuff like that. And you can see the silhouette of your enemy through the sort of paper door. And you can absolutely get an ability to go stab and assassinate somebody through that. So yeah, lots of different ways to be an assassin, to be a shinobi, lots of different power-ups as well for people to go explore, man. Like, this is why we needed an hour to talk about it. Like, I don't understand. This is why I needed you. This is why I needed the questions. Cause like, I'm like, I don't know how I'm supposed to talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows or really any Assassin's Creed with like, so I played it for 35 hours. Here's 4 minutes of what I think about the game. It's a deep game. There's a lot to do in it. For me, it has a lot of what I'm looking for in a game. A lot of different exploration. The characters I think are really great. The themes explored have me excited to hit those story moments. That's always my test with games like this. I can go off and do side quests and side missions and the gameplay is fun. And then when I decide I'm going to progress the story a little bit more, that's rewarding as well. Like,
yes,
I don't know what else people really want, if like what
4
else
out of 10.
Yeah, exactly. Is this game a 4?
Totally. Yeah.
So I like it. It's not perfect, but I do think these characters are really, really interesting. The Japanese version of it is, in my opinion, far better. And I would understand if people come back to me and go, these moments that you're talking about aren't hitting for me, and they're playing in the English version. Like, no disrespect to the performance captures there. It didn't do it for me either, I guess is the way to say that. It's when it went full Japanese that it was like, oh, I'm in. All right.
Yeah, man. Yeah, really sell those emotional moments. I mean, yeah, from my perspective, like I really am interested in getting into this one just to get into that story, to learn about these characters, to see these themes and stuff. And yeah, like the differences in the gameplay between the two characters I think is fascinating. This one to me like seems like it's set up really well to be a hit, man. I'm glad you're liking it.
Yeah, I think if you like Odyssey, you'll like this one. It's different in terms of its tone. It's obviously not, it's not Greece. There's one other thing. Oh, I didn't check out really the store. There's a whole like store thing to it. And I think there's all these other various like Ubisoft-ism kind of stuff that people will worry about that I honestly didn't really check out. I don't have, and I don't even know if there's like an option to buy something that accelerates your leveling up. That's been a thing before. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't have it. There's a store that allows you to buy certain outfits and stuff. And one of the things that I found most interesting that it almost got me was you can dress up your horse like a dragon. And it looks awesome, dude. Like they're on fire. Like they look really cool. I didn't touch that. And so I just want to like point that out as I saw it. It didn't bother me that it wasn't part of the game. This is like a horse armor kind of situation. But that might bother some people that maybe some of the best outfits and stuff like that are to be purchased. And maybe there's an option out there to accelerate your leveling for purchase. I didn't have it. I don't even know if it's a thing. And that can be upsetting to some people. And this is me just like catering to those who just seem to get really upset about
We're
some
looking
of these
for something.
development
Yeah.
options. Yeah. So I didn't really come across anything that was offensive to me, but I think that's a very personal thing.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. As long, I mean, it doesn't sound like it's intrusive though. Like it's not just like every 2 seconds, hey Sean, you better buy this horse armor.
No, you kind of have to go out of your way. Like, I didn't even realize it was there for the first however many hours. Like, oh, there's a button for the store. Okay, what's over here?
Yeah.
And that's when I was like, this horse armor is actually maybe best horse armor. Maybe it gets an award for best horse armor. Yeah.
Top 5 horse armors.
Yeah. Now I've got to see if I can find some footage of that. Chat about it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Sean, any final thoughts or anything? And I know, by the way, too, that this is, review in progress. You're still playing the game. This is really just like the start of our coverage of this here. So any sort of final things you'd like to leave the folks with?
Yeah, man. I encourage people to give it a shot. I'm really enjoying my time with it. There's nothing really like surprising in terms of the gameplay, other than the way that the two different characters are playing against each other, or the different styles that you can do. That was really, really quite amazing. But even still, it feels like an Assassin's Creed game. So in some cases, I can almost like hear the reviews already. Like it's just another Assassin's Creed game. It's like, well, yeah, like it's, that's in my mind, that's a good thing. Plays like an Assassin's Creed game. It's enjoyable. There's a lot of deep history, a lot of deep culture and traditions and themes that are explored, and that's really good. I almost feel like relief just recording this right now because I might go off playing it a little bit more, I'll say naturally. I've had it for 5 days of gameplay as we record this. And so I don't normally cram Assassin's Creed like this. So I might take a step back and play it a little bit more normally here. But I can't wait to hear what people have to say about it. I can't wait to hear people who haven't played it jump into the comments and be angry with me for enjoying a Ubisoft game. So thank you guys for the engagement and the algorithm. Appreciate that very much. But looking forward to seeing what other people think about this. And I think people should play it, man. If you like Assassin's Creed, like, I don't know how else see it. You're supposed to evaluate it. It's very, very good. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. Pretty easy recommend if you're an Assassin's Creed fan. Well, talk a little bit about some of the other coverage you have coming up. Cause I know, we're doing this here. Obviously you're going to cover it on the Xbox Drive as well. One of the podcasts here on our network.
Yeah, for those who are new and somehow still here, and now we're into this coverage here, we do a podcast called the Xbox Drive. We also have the PlayStation Drive. And so I'm a co-host on the Xbox Drive. Those folks over on the PlayStation Drive might allow me to jump on over there and discuss maybe a little bit further. And I think by then others will have jumped into it as well. So we might have some more conversational kind of coverage. Yep. And you can expect some streams over at twitch.tv/carpoolgaming live. I'm going to be doing that a little bit over the next couple of weeks. Somewhere in between me and maybe having another addition to the family at some point here. So
yeah, I'll figure that out.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. But more coverage. I mean, this is, to me, and I'm glad you prompted this, Seth. I feel like it would be a complete disservice for a game of this size and density for it to go like, here's a review and that's it. On to the next one. That would suck. So I do want to continue the conversation. We've got a great Discord as well, and I'm sure people are going to be jumping into it there. It's going to be a big game, I imagine. I'm really hopeful that the game works on console. I don't know that.
Yeah, we'll find out.
I'm sure it worked on my rig. So I guess there's that again, just covering my butt at the tail end here. But I appreciate you helping me just walk through this. I still think it would be impossible for me to, as who I am, to cover this game in a 5 to 6 minute review video. I think it would be a disservice to the developers who made it. I'm very grateful for them for making it and for the opportunity to play it ahead of time, and grateful for you, man, to talk about it like this and maybe do a little different coverage, a nice dedicated 65, 70 minutes talking about Assassin's Creed Shadows. Hell yeah.
You know me. I love a deep dive. Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts, Sean.
Thank you,
it, dude.
The end.
Thank you. The end. Goodbye, everybody. Like and subscribe and all that.
Oh shit. Yeah. Do that.